2, 1. We're
Beautiful.
back.
We're here.
We're here.
We're in the fucking studio. I said I wasn't going to swear this episode. I've been trying to stop my swearing, Tom. I'll give you a rousing introduction in a second. But before we start, I said last week I was not going to swear anymore because we had a guest that was going to come on, but they were like, look, a little bit too much with the profanity. So I've tried to stop myself, and then within 13 seconds,
Literally the first thing you say.
I've already sworn. So I'm going to try and not do it for the rest of the show. And while we have this amazing guest on today,
Yeah, we're hyped for this one.
Kiely, am I pronouncing the surname correctly?
It sounds like Kiely, but it's actually Kiely, Justin. But either one's
Kiely.
fine at this point.
There you go. Well, Tom Kiely from the band Patient 67 is on with us today on Wormholes podcast. We're super hyped to talk to you about music and what you've been up to and your history in terms of, you know, your songwriting and just everything in general.
And dialing in from Perth, so it's still, midday over there at the moment?
Yeah, it's 11 a.m. Just had my morning coffee.
We had to get one Perth joke in at least.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to start us off. But obviously it's a late one for us. It's nearly 10 here in Adelaide, but just the sun going down for you over there, my man. But thank you so much for coming on and giving us your time, man. I appreciate it.
No worries at all, guys. Happy to be here and looking forward to chatting with you guys for sure.
So I guess let's start at the beginning for yourself personally. You've obviously jumped on. We want to talk all about Patient 67, but that band obviously doesn't exist unless there's a man named Tom as well who has an interest in music. And so tell us a little bit about yourself and your, I guess, musical journey all the way up to the point where you are about to go on a national tour in 2023 as well, which we'll get to a little bit later. But I guess talk us through the journey to get you there.
For sure, Ryan. So we, sorry, Justin. We did a huge. So it's nice you mentioned the tour, and I'm looking forward to getting stuck into that. But I love the question because we do speak a lot about how did this band come to be? How did that band come to be? Mm-hmm. But I feel like for so many of us who get into heavy music, I'm sure you boys understand this as well. It feels like such a journey, like from, you know, whatever musical beginning you're on to really find that gateway. And for some people, it's their parents, or for some people, they might have an older sibling or a person through high school. For me, it was very much a gradual process, man. Like I was very much into like drama and singing and stuff growing up through like primary school, and through high school, I was like really big into like, you know, pop punk bands. Like I love like my Blink-182, All Time Low, like those fun loving like Warped Tour summertime bands. And obviously I did all the sound waves early on.
Oh yeah.
They were classics, weren't they?
They were so much fun. Like as anyone who's been to one will know. And I just got this like more and more hungry to sort of be involved in music. And as I was getting kind of the pangs to do it, my music tastes were getting progressively heavier and heavier. So started off with like bands like Alexis on Fire and like Dance Gavin Dance, like post-hardcore Alisana, and then more towards bands like, you know, Bring Me the Horizon, and then into like even the deathcore range, and then sort of settled somewhere in the middle where my sort of true passion became like those, you know, metalcore bands, fun metalcore bands. And ultimately when it came to wanting to really make a band, something that I might want to take an interest in pursuing, that's the music that spoke the most to me and the music that I love writing and being a part of the most, like the big breakdowns, the awesome choruses, like that was just me. And so over time, this band's been an absolute journey in itself. Like this is my first ever proper band. You know, I've kind of started it from scratch and just built, you know, learned everything along the way, made every mistake along the way, you know, and just made it an absolute learning experience. So obviously you guys are the same, I'm sure, but you know, the passion in our music that we love is so cool. And that's what I think has kept me coming back, is just seeing that energy. And even during the harder times of COVID, just that sort of, that community around it and just the music itself. Like we're in a great era for music as well right now, let alone you know, what it was 10 years ago, whatever. It's still great today. So I
think that's one thing about the hardcore scene that I've always absolutely adored, and the metal scene or whatever you want to label it, is the community around it has always been so strong. I remember when I was like 16 going to Fowler's, you know, and just like the second someone was knocked down, they were getting picked straight back up again. Like it was just an awesome vibe. Like
I think it makes me think of, have you ever made it over to the Eastern States for a Unify before? Have you been to a Unify?
I haven't. I have flown over east for gigs before, but not to Unified. But I hear really good things about it for sure.
So obviously it was on last weekend. We haven't made it this time for possible vaccination reasons and things we won't get into. But
please don't. I work for the health department. No more.
Oh no,
no, shit.
he's a traitor.
I don't want to do it. I'm just tired.
No, that's fair. We won't go down that path at all. When we have you on next time, mate, we'll fucking pick you apart for that.
Sounds good. We'll do a Q&A.
Yeah, that's it.
But my man here, he's been to 4 of them. I've been to 3 personally, and if you want to find a truer representation of that exact spirit, that community that you're talking about, you're looking at anywhere between 7,500 to, I think they've had a maximum of 15,000.
Yeah, just over 10
on
or so,
any
yeah.
possible drug under the sun, on BYO alcohol in a campground, like just the absolute concoction for chaos. And yet, I've never seen a fight.
No.
I've seen a few people a little bit too loose, but I mean,
You get that,
you're going to
though.
get that.
You get that anyway.
But over a 3 or something day camping, and that's the most I've seen. Whereas, like, when I was a fresh 18-year-old and I went to like your stereos and whatever, you're seeing every overdose under the sun. You're seeing one punch every 10 minutes, like, a punch on every 10 minutes. Like, just such a different vibe. Like, you feel so uneasy, so on edge in those kinds of festivals. Yet you go to this camping festival with just a bunch of metalheads, and the vibe in the community just absolutely shines through everything. When we were there in 2020, just before we went into a pandemic, on the second day of the festival, it was like 150 kilometre winds. And you've just got gazebos flying off into the sky, and yet, like, no one's getting down. Like, they've cancelled all the bands for the whole day, and everyone's just like, yeah, but now they're going to have all the bands tomorrow, so let's just chill out and camp. Like, just the vibes were still just so incredible, and I think that's just a testament that kind of thing just shines through all the bullshit that you deal with sometimes, man. So if they keep coming back, I urge you to get yourself over to a Unify, man. You will not be disappointed.
I can't wait. Yeah, I've heard so many good things about, like you said, the community, and even this year, seeing everyone's joy around it coming, back. And I think it's something we could hopefully see more of in the next few years, more festivals like that in that vein. And hopefully that trickles down to the shows at a local level too, which I believe it's going in that direction, which I think is really good.
Well, that's, I think, the one thing probably to come out of the pandemic as well, is people are like looking at what are the shit that we loved to do before, that we want to invest serious time, effort, money, whatever into, and having a local scene that thrives. I think that exists for probably every genre of music, but I think for us who, a lot of people probably place their best teenage memories in a Fowlers or whatever here in Adelaide, whatever it may be over in Perth, those shows that have just been, that venue that's been running shows for the last decade or whatever. People are like, shit, that's actually the best. Now that I've realised when I've had stuff taken away from me, how much I took these things for granted, I'm going to spend money when shows come back, when bands come here, I'm going to make sure I go to it. So I think that's going to be the big difference. I think for a lot of us, I remember in 2020 as well, I was doing a hectic fringe schedule with my stand-up, and Polaris came here with Wage War,
Crystal
Lake. And I didn't go because I was just so flat out through doing my fringe shows that I was like, I'll just miss this one. They're going to be back in no time. And sure enough, we've not had a band back here in 2.5 years or whatever. So, that feeling that I had from thinking that I could just miss that one and catch the next one, like, I'll never let that happen again. So, I'm going to buy a ticket. And I think that applies to a lot of people, So that will make the scene thrive.
Definitely. And I think now that we've had that little bit of time, bands have had these last, let's say 2 years, to really just go, all right, are we gonna do this, or are we not gonna do this? Essentially, it's really weeded out the people that were never in it for the right reasons in the first place, and that kind of leads me into my first question that I wanted to throw to you is, from the start of the band, did you have any like long-term real goals, or did it more so start as just like, all right, this is just going to be a bit of fun? And is it like a one-person project, or do you write all the music, or how does that kind of work?
It's a great question, man. When the band started, it was just a matter of, I just wanted, I was kind of in the middle of uni. Like, I just wanted an outlet to kind of do something creative. Like, I wasn't playing sport at that point, but I still had such a passion and interest in music. So there was no goals at all. It was just a matter of wanting to put one foot forward in front of the other and have a good time while doing it. Yeah. Obviously, over time, it's morphed into something that I don't think, I could have ever imagined. But I think because my passion for it has always been there, and my I just feel like there's just so much I want to achieve in this band. It has over time progressed into something where I do have real long-term ambitions to the band now, but I just never gave up on it and just never wanted to quit. I just never, there was plenty of times when I was like, man, like, whatever, it's just going to be easier. That's too much effort, or like,
Yeah.
why am I, it's pushing uphill. Like even in Perth, like the local scene is great, but it can be hard to get those opportunities. And
Yeah.
once I started separating myself, and our band as a collective decided to separate ourselves from tying our sort of self-worth as a band to like where we kind of stood in the local scene, just because it is tough. Like you don't feel like you're going anywhere. The second I took that pressure off myself, I just started enjoying it again.
Yeah, that's
And
good, man.
it's been going ever since. Yeah. So, and in terms of who writes the music, it's definitely a collective. Like Rory, our guitarist, who does a lot of our singing as well. He's the riff machine. He's the one who brings a lot of the initial demos in, and then we sort of do lyrics and stuff from there. But every song is a little bit different. We like to mix it up.
Yeah, cool. That's
he's
good.
He's fly in, fly out. So we do a lot of our writing over Zoom and stuff anyway. So it's really which is good because it means we can just write anywhere, which is nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the nature of the beast these days, is that like whilst what seems a bit scary and daunting to start with ends up being a huge leg up for situations like yourself, where you would have a FIFO guitarist like waiting for him to come down, whereas now he's just being able to jam and you go, that's sick, that's I don't know about that one.
Let's
it.
That's right, exactly.
That's awesome. And the riffs are fucking sick, by the way. Like
thank you.
There's some
I can't take any credit, but no, I agree.
some serious riffage going on. So tell us about the band name. Is there a bit of history there behind that? Where did you pull that from?
Yeah, so I love the movie Shutter Island with Leonardo DiCaprio. So
Yep.
it's one of my favorite movies, still is actually, though I can't really watch it anymore without just being like, oh, like my entire life is based on the title of this movie.
Yes.
But and we were just kicking around band names like really early on, me and our initial guitarist, and we just wanted something that was a little bit, nothing too cringy or like corny, but something that was just like, just kind of stuck. And that I just threw it out there and we're like, yeah, let's do it. And it's just I still like the name today, so I can't be mad. I can't be mad about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you a Volumes fan at all?
I do like Volumes, yes.
Well, obviously the podcast is named after the famous Wormholes by Volumes. That's where we got the name from, because I just like thrash that song when we're in a group setting all the time. We couldn't come up with a name, and we thought that Wormholes kind of works because it can be anything. You can end up anywhere.
I love it. I love it.
So when you hear the episode, when we send you the version that's finished, and you listen to the little intro that we've written, it's even a Volumes Wormholes inspired intro that my man, absolute Shredmeister himself here has written. So look out for that when it comes out.
Awesome.
So obviously, let's talk about where you guys are at now. Obviously, you're about to embark on a pretty massive tour. It's funny, one of the bands that's jumped on that tour with you, Emicia, their lead singer, I actually worked with him at the company I've just been let go from. But so they're amazing. Those guys are great. So you'll have an awesome time with that, man. How did that come about? Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so we just, I've obviously got people on Facebook that I'm kind of friends with, and you know what it's like. People know people, and someone reached out to me and just said, would you guys be interested in doing a tour with Siamese? And I said, I freaking love that band. I would absolutely love to do that. But I was like, are you being serious? You're just like messing with me, like, because being from Perth is not that often, and 2 years of pandemic and no touring means that when someone inboxes you about a tour, you just got to kind of look twice. And it was just a no-brainer. I was like, I would love to do that. And Traces, who are also on the tour, I'm quite close with their vocalist Jack, and the guy who is booking the shows, Chris, has his own booking company, does a lot of charity shows and stuff. So it's just a no-brainer. So it's just a good opportunity to get our toes wet, touring with, we've never toured before, truthfully. It's never been, we've never really had the opportunity. So this is our first crack.
That's so exciting, man.
That's amazing,
yeah,
dude.
Can't wait.
And what you're saying is so true. I mean, you look at what's happened with to poor old Made Them Suffer with basically being stuck in Perth because your guys' borders have been closed so hard. Like some other bands have at least been able to sneak in one here or there and get back into their state and whatever else. Like it hasn't been much, but probably in the last 12 months, people have been able to sneak some in, whereas, Perth-based bands have basically just had to accept the fact that there's just no fucking chance they were going anywhere.
Yep. It's been so frustrating, and it's been so hard as well, Justin, seeing the, oh, you got to come to this place. I'm like, I don't even know if I can play a show 4 minutes down the road, let alone, you got to understand. We had a show cancelled on the night of because we had one case, which if you think about that now, that's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Insane.
It was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The show was off that day. And I was like, that just kicked us in the guts with our confidence, like in terms of like being sure of whether something would go ahead or not. Do you know what I mean? It's tough.
Yeah.
And look at Night and Day Festival. Like, again, we couldn't get over to that at that time because borders were closed. Like, and it was just this amazing spectacle of a thing. And, you know, just so much of that kind of stuff that you just never imagined there was going to be a time where that kind of weird border restriction was going to stop you being able to get to something or be a part of something or create something like you guys would obviously want to do in that space. But I guess, you know, for you, I guess it's a little bit, you know, if it's all well, if it ends well with embarking on something in 2023. Obviously, you've been dropping some singles. Fatebringer is an absolute jam. I've been
it's killer. It's killer.
Week, so
I actually wanted to ask you because I really wanted to just to get an idea about who in terms of vocally influences you the most. Like, who would you say would be your biggest influences? Because I can't quite put my finger on, like, you know, like it's
definitely like, I think it really is a collection of like listening to this music for such a long time. You know, you just kind of build your own sort of combination of influences, and really depending on the sort of song and, you know, the sort of energy I'm vibing off is kind of where I draw my inspirations from. Like early on, I did listen to a lot of like those early Rise Records bands with the really like clear low screams, like, you know, Aaron from Secrets. There was a band called Confide that aren't really popular anymore, but they had a vocalist. If you go listen to some of their old stuff, I definitely hear some of the similarities there. Even Danny from Asking Alexandria, like 2022 version of that is very different. But those first two records, he was an absolute animal.
Stand Up and Scream, you know, like that was.
It's nothing.
Album that is.
It's insane. Like, yeah, it's great records like that. You know, Jared from Blessed to Fall, like. So I definitely have more of like an American, I guess, influence on the bands that I love.
Yeah.
But when Rory brings me demos that are very much in that riffier, like a little bit more proggy, I want to say.
Yeah,
like,
a little bit more like Era, almost.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, definitely. He's a huge Era fan, and like he doesn't.
You can tell.
So I'll listen to bands like that, and like obviously Currents, Weird Coincidence, like, but those more new age bands for sure.
Yeah, Withered came on in the car when I was on the way here earlier today, which is one of my favourite Current songs. It's an absolute. And we've been listening. What's the old Current song that we
Hanging by a Thread?
Yeah, Hanging by a Thread.
Off their
It's got the sludgiest bass that we've ever heard.
Yeah.
But yeah, big Currents fans as well. How did that come about? Getting that feature?
Yeah, so with Brian, like we've had some amazing singing features over the journey, and we were like, this song's aggressive. It packs a punch. And I'd actually tracked all vocals for the song initially, and I was like, you know what? I think it would just like being from Perth as well, we need to sort of find other ways for our band to stand out. You know, we could release a song, but I was like, you know, we're in a pandemic. We can't really tour like we want to, but what we can do is collaborate with other amazing musicians. We've seen more of that in our scene over the last few years. And Brian, I was on a huge Currents kick, like you boys were just alluding to. I was just jamming this stuff constantly, and I was like, man, Brian would be sick on this song. So I just reached out to him, and we were just able to make it happen from there, which is really
so
cool.
Good.
Really thankful. Yeah.
Which means we have to, of course, ask about probably the biggest feature as well, Mr. Kellen Quinn. How did that one come about?
So we've actually had I would say a long relationship with Kellen. So when we were before even Home Truths had come out in 2019, I actually just randomly sent him the song "What's Left of Us," which is we dropped that song about 3 years to the day ago. And I just
the original slaps, by the way. Like it's in my playlist as well. Like the OG one is also a fucking banger. It's so good.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. We dropped that song, and I sent it to him, and he just followed me back on Instagram one day, and we just started DMing, and then we actually wrote the original with him. So I actually have vocal. We wrote that back and forth over like text message before the pandemic. And then when it came to doing the reimagined, I was like, wouldn't it be sick if we got Kellen on the song this time as opposed to just like co-writing it? So yeah, it was amazing. We've actually got another song planned with him in the future too. So
Oh, that's hype
yeah.
as.
That's so good, man. And that's like, I mean, look, you know, that kind of story of just reaching out to people is exactly the kind of stuff that we're trying to do. Like, obviously, you know, we just want to, like we said just before we got on air, you know, I just think that what's not broadcast enough is the cool story. Some of the stuff that you're telling us tonight that exists for every band, and I don't think that there's enough of a effort or a scene, I guess you could call it, into trying to, hey, what's the story here? Because I love finding that stuff out about bands. There's normally always so many cool layers and nuances to, yeah, we did this is how we started, we used to be called this, then we were called that, then we did that, all those kinds of things, you know, that actually exist before you get to the point of here's this record that we created or whatever it may be. And I just don't think there's enough platforms that are trying to tell those stories. I think that's what we wanted to really focus some energy into. I mean, this podcast is a bit of everything. We love a conspiracy, we love mental health, and, and we love metal, and that's like really
the things we do.
The cornerstones of this podcast.
But we do end up talking to a lot of different types of people. Yeah. You know, we've had psychologists, we've had, you know, business owners, you know, real estate agents, you know, like all different types of people. So it's good to get like a bit of a you've just gone down a different wormhole each time up,
and that's
why
it's called Wormholes, brother. Thinking of the mental health stuff, obviously we've talked about you know, the toughness in Perth, and I guess give me a little bit of insight into how it's been being a band that's kind of, you know, starting to get some traction, but then you're stuck in this situation. What were some of the keys for you in keeping your head above water through the last couple of years?
I love the question a lot, actually, Justin. I think it's really important that we talk that, and I think there has been a good spotlight shown on the mental health side of things, not just for artists, but fans of music too, like we've alluded to, with not being able to go to shows or travel for shows, whatever. For me, it was really hard because we released that our Home Truth EP in Feb of 2020, and we actually had our EP launch, our first ever time playing to that sort of crowd, you know, and the next day things were locked. The next week things were locked down. Yeah. And a lot of people would say to me, "Oh, like you guys were doing something, and now it's like you've kind of stopped." And I'm like, "Well, yes, but last time I checked, every band's in the same boat. You can either, you know, and definitely make sure you're doing those things right by yourself. You know, try to take care of yourself, check in mentally with yourself, check in with others. But we can only control what we can control. And being from Perth, I've honestly believed that being from Perth during this pandemic has given us a real kind of different vantage point. We've always had the troubles to tour over East. It's never been easy. I mean, you can name 2 bands from Perth that have actually done it, Make Them Suffer and Savior like from the scene. Yeah. Who else? Like it's just not, there's just not that many. And I love that we've been able to, I guess, flip the narrative of saying, yes, things are really hard at the moment, but people need music now more than ever.
Exactly, brother. Exactly.
We need to be present. We need to be present in their lives as a band in other ways, and also as a fan of my favorite bands. I loved we did our own live stream, but like when Under Oath and Dance Gavin Dance did their live stream, when bands started dropping more like behind the scenes content, like you were alluding to before, with the telling those real stories. So we sort of lent more into that content side of the game, putting out more music as opposed to being like, well, we'll just wait till it blows over. Because as we've seen, we're still blowing over today.
Yeah.
And that it is almost this thing, like this new thing where we're like, let's just go single. Like we don't need to wait and do this big thing that can get lost in the fray. Let's just keep doing big single releases and delivering it that way. Harking back to what you just said, though, I think one of my favourite things to come out of what you were talking about is, did you catch the Architect show that they did live from the Beacon Theatre or whatever it was?
Was it Royal Albert Hall?
Royal Albert Hall,
yeah. I didn't purchase it, but the snippets I saw and things I heard were unbelievable. Yeah, incredible. So I do need to get around to watching it. Yeah.
The way that they were able to capture the sound of a live show deliver it into whatever speakers you're listening to was unbelievable. Like, we've watched it a few times now, haven't we? Yeah. And it was just like, and again, like Architects is one of my favourite live shows. Have you got to see them live before?
I have never seen them live before. No, unfortunately.
So there's another bucket list. Who knows how that's going to happen in the future? But he's probably one of yours as well. I'd say live. He brings a different vocal range to his live shows that he doesn't do on records, and I always appreciate that when someone just goes, "Oh, fuck it, I'm just gonna do this and this and whatever, and then when it comes to the studio, they still do what everyone's used to. But he just brings something special, and he did to that live performance as well. But I mean, I'm liking that stuff because it also. You think about people that, say are financially impacted or geographically impacted. They live in a small community or whatever. So getting to a show for them, even when shows are thriving, were difficult. Having these live shows, like doing live online shows and things like that, it opens up a whole new market that wasn't there before. You think about back in the day when, Parkway and that used to go and do like a rural town tour.
Yeah.
That's still once in the band's history, So, but for these guys that like when we're moving into this age of technology where they can put on a live show online, all those people in rural towns will snap that shit up instantly because it's the closest they're going to get, especially to say like a band that's overseas that's now going to be even more tentative to come to Australia given everything that's happened. We've got to move into that age where it's like, hey, let's do, all right, so we're going to do a tour. Then at the end of the tour, when we're going to do a big live show and sell out like tickets. Every band starts doing that as a part of their international tour. The amount of extra money that they can bank on because then people are going to snap those up who weren't able to get out to the tour.
Well, yeah, speaking of that kind of stuff, extra content and live shows and stuff like that. Do you have any future plans on doing something like that for the band or?
So yeah, we had such a good time with our stream late last year. I think it was December we dropped it. It was like a fully filmed, proper, like we went the whole 9 yards with it. And we've put that up on our merch store so people can go and purchase it on demand anytime, which is so cool because like for new people who are into our band, we can be like, obviously we might not visit location X, but we still want to bring you like the feel of a live show and you can keep it forever,
Yeah.
So we definitely have more plans for that stuff. Like we're constantly trying to think of new ways, whether we can, do more live stream stuff or whether we can live stream a show on our next tour or show. Like we've done a few things like that before. So definitely we always want to keep that in the front of our mind because we don't want to just cater to the handful of people who are at the show, that we're playing. We want to try and think of our larger audience too, because we want everyone to feel like they can be involved with our music. And, given we don't get the chance or haven't had the chance to tour until these new opportunities have come up, we want to try to keep everyone feeling involved as well. So definitely thinking of that. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So you guys just released this recent single. Do you plan on keeping on releasing more singles or are you going to do a longer form piece of work or what are your plans?
So we'll have an album coming out in July. So that's part of like what it's obviously been building towards this. And personally, yes, I love doing the single side of things. I love it. I think in our community, and you boys can definitely attest to this, there's an album mentality. People want an album at some point. And I know for me, like all my favorite bands, that album or this album or whatever. So the album that we're putting out is definitely more of a chance to lock in people for life on our band and what we want to do.
Yeah, that's
as
cool.
Opposed to just being, we want that package to be put together for everyone who's ever supported our band. And yeah, I'm so excited. It's been years in the making.
So you've been writing this for a while now, have you?
Yeah, so we recorded it all through last year. That's the thing. Like we just release constantly, and it's been such a grind. But I think you get in, you get out of things what you put into them, right? So we just kept writing, and it's only really recently we've had a break from writing to push these new singles out. And it's been done for a while. It's already finished and ready to go. So yeah, the end of sort of mid to end July, it'll be out there for everyone.
And that's hype as.
That's awesome.
That's hype as.
And it's funny that you say that as well. Like I know, because I want to talk a little bit about your social media presence at the moment, and that's obviously what's led me to message you because I just see you hitting it hard. And I mentioned before we started about Zico from Seiran, who I had on. The only reason I messaged him is because I just saw him just relentless with his effort, and that's what you got to do, man. If you want to, you got to put the time in to do it. But obviously, I'm guessing you're the man behind all of that as well. You're relentless in the social media game, and it pays dividends, man. It's obviously getting ears on the songs. Is that a one man project? Or you got some people helping you out?
So it is just all me at this point. And for me, I just try not to overthink it too much, boys. That's the truth of it. Like at first, and I did the PR thing at uni. I understand how a well thought out, release plan has. I get all of that, but sometimes you just got to kind of let the shackles off and just have a bit of fun.
Absolutely.
I say this with the asterisks on it. We're not here to ever spout We don't want controversy, nothing like that. We just want to have a good time and have a bit of a laugh with people.
Yeah.
But also introduce new people to not just our band, but just like to new music in general. Like you've seen on my TikTok, for example, like I've done a bunch of videos where I've listed bands that I think are underrated, like bands like Hollow Front, Thousand Below, like whatever, like those heavier bands that I don't think are getting enough traction. And that's what's so cool about social media is you can really just connect with other people, meet new people, like connecting with you boys and things like that. And I'm very grateful for that. Yeah, it's great.
And that's exactly right, man. You know, it's again, when I look at when I'm on the Metalcore page and I'm on these pages, you know, I'm looking for just people that seem like they're, you know, going to want to come on and have a chat. You know, there's unfortunately, I guess there's kind of like a not so nice side to the scene that's always existed, where people, you know, have the sort of like ego complex and everything else. So it's good to see people like yourself and Zico and even Chris from Alienist, the guy that he's hit us up saying he wants to come on soon. And you know, there's a lot of bands that are a lot more about let's just help each other along this journey. You know, we all want to have these kind of, as I said, for us it's about trying to get more information and learn the stories behind these bands, and people like yourself who were saying, yeah, look, we're happy to jump on and have a chat, and it helps us out in the long run as well. So I just think that it's anything that we can do to try and help the community thrive, and as you said, get more music into more people's ears. Like for us with the podcast, what I've loved about it is because we talk about metal so much just in our general episodes. The message I get, Polaris is the big one all the time for some reason, but I get messages all the time from people who aren't metalheads or people that I would associate with music, and they listen to the podcast for whatever else, the content that we bring, and then we get messages all the time in the inbox like, so you guys always wearing Polaris merch or whatever, I've just started listening to them, holy fuck, like it's so, and just like,
I love it.
There's been a couple of other bands like people that just aren't, you know, they're like, why are these guys obsessed with this particular thing?
Yeah.
I have to go and have a listen, and then they come back and they're like, dude, like mind blown, this is amazing. So that's what it's about, man.
That's the thing. There's so much good music out there, like at the moment, not only just in metal, but just in every genre, man.
It is.
Like it's such a good time. Do you have any non kind of like metal or, you know, hardcore artists that you've been heaps into lately?
I've been listening to so much, and I don't know whether you guys are going to laugh or not, whatever, but I listen to a lot of hip hop and like,
fuck yeah.
A lot of like, even just like indie pop. And I listen to a bunch of different things. I know that's like a classic thing to say, but I really do. And I agree with what you're saying. There's definitely so much good music out there. And I have to agree really, really with the comment in regards to like that. I don't want to say gatekeeping side. I don't know what it is because I've never been on the other side of that. But all I know is that when I was coming up in the local scene here, there was definitely a lot of, you don't get to peek behind the curtain, or you're not like, and I've just like, no, I'm pulling it back. I want everyone to know. I want to spread the message about our music. I want to spread the message about the music we love. And I want to make it accessible. Like in terms of like, if you want to find us, we'll find each other type thing.
Yeah.
No, we're not too cool or above anyone. And I don't think that's the way for us as a scene and as a genre, whatever you want to call it. I think the way forward is to make it inclusive. And like you said, people who are listening to your show, they might go, I'm going to check out Polaris. I'm going to check out Ocean Grove or whatever the bands are. And all of a sudden, people are branching out and listening to new things. That's what it's about. It's not about gatekeeping or being too cool or anything like that. And it shouldn't be.
No, that's exactly right.
I agree.
And I've personally got such a thirst for new kind of stuff I've never heard before. Like that's always, but some people don't necessarily have that as much. So trying to give them that, because there's nothing better than finding something that you didn't know you were going to enjoy, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, definitely.
Until someone pushes you down a bit, like, you know, holds you down and goes, listen to this fucking thing. And you go, hold on a shit, this is awesome. Like, you know, sometimes we can get even stuck into our ways of just like sticking to, I mean, look, you know, for me, perfect example, I still listen to Dying Is Your Latest Fashion from Escape the Fate, like, you know, on a regular basis. I just absolutely fucking love it. But I have to force myself out of that zone and go, I'm going to go on to Spotify radio and I'm going to
Yeah.
click add to queue,
Yeah.
all the bands that kind of sound like something that I think I would like. And if we can try and help people on that journey at all, man, I just think it's so good. Like music for me is just such a integral part of my life. And I guess going back to what you said before, I didn't realize how vital live music was to me until I couldn't see it anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't realize how much that was my like moment to kind of ground and center myself and feel one with the universe was standing in the middle of a mosh pit. And I'm sure that you're probably the same. Do you have any live shows that you have made over your journey that just stick out as your favorites of all time?
Oh, that's a great question. Obviously, the first things that come to mind is just those rush of festivals and just that feeling of the day of, you know, going from one band to the next. And, you know, I'll see BLEGHst for 1 minute and then I've got Bad Religion, like, you know, one of my favorite punk bands growing up. And that all in a day, it's just like a music, like adrenaline overload, right?
Yeah.
But like you guys were saying with Fowlers, I haven't had the chance to go to that venue in Adelaide or see shows. But in Perth, we have Amplifier Bar, like so many bands I've seen there, like over the years, you know, heavy bands, like punk bands. And man, I just think the feeling of going to a show like that, you know, going to the merch desk afterwards, you know, and just dropping, you know, way too much money on something, but it helps the band. So you're like completely at peace with it, which I think is important. You know, walking, maybe having a few too many drinks every now and then, just all of that. It just makes you a lot of memories and it makes you thankful to be a part of something like that. And that we have an outlet like that. And yeah, it's been hard the last few years with us not having that available as regularly, but I really do believe that, like you've said really correctly, it does bring a newfound appreciation. And I definitely have stepped back and said, I'm not going to take this for granted anymore. And I'm going to do everything I can to make my dreams, even just as a fan going to shows, I want to fly to that show or whatever. That's so much more real to me now because I realize how important it is, you know?
Yeah. I'm going to buy more merch. I'm going to buy more things.
Yeah, I'm buying more, man. It's
for sure.
I'm doubling down.
So Tom, before we went on air, we were talking about how you like listen to podcasts, and you mentioned that you were into your sports.
Yeah.
What sports are you into?
So I'm a St Kilda Footy Club tragic, unfortunately.
St Kilda.
So my dad,
like the great Shane
Warne,
who rest in peace. But he was another St Kilda tragic.
Destroyed. My brother's middle name's Shane, so that's all I got to say on that.
Oh wow.
Huge St Kilda fan. WACA member, so I go to cricket during summer, and then I'm a big NBA fan as well. So I love my sport. It's my other hobby on the side.
I just want to say something quickly because I got banned off Facebook for 3 days for a stupid comment, so I didn't actually get to say the long story. The Shane Warne thing, like celebrity deaths haven't ever really like got me that much. Like I've never. Sometimes I've even probably looked at other people over celebrity deaths and been like, oh, like dial it back a bit.
Yeah.
But I got off my computer, I was playing a game or something, and I laid down in bed and I saw the first article that came up to the point that when I then Google searched it, that was the only article that existed. Yeah. So I almost watched the first sort of news and then had to go and dig to find out whether it was real. And then sure enough, 10 minutes
later, it started to flood out.
Wrong. Yeah. And it actually really rattled me. Like nothing like a celebrity has ever really done that to me before, but I was like, I'm a massive cricket fan as well. You're not so much, but
but I can respect the leg spin, mate. Don't worry about that.
I realised how integral he was to me sticking with watching cricket. Because my mum and dad not big cricket fans, but my uncle, who I used to have spend a lot of time with, he was a massive cricket fan. And, that time of Shane Warne just in his heyday, I bowled spin, all of that kind of stuff because of him as well. And, so I was actually kind of laying there, dude, 52 years old.
Yeah, so young, man.
And it was funny because he was kind of getting a bad rap because he was so over-opinionated. And so, everyone was getting into this habit of being like, oh, for fuck's sake, Warnie, calm down. Yeah. And then he's just gone. You know what I mean? You assumed you had 20 more years of thinking he's a dickhead and an over-entitled dickhead. 20, 30.
That's always the thing with a lot of sports stars is you don't really see you do know how good they are, but when they actually pass, you really start to look back at how good they were. Who's the basketballer that died in the helicopter crash? Was it?
Oh, Kobe Bryant.
Kobe Bryant. Yeah. Obviously, he was one of the best of all time. It always has been. But until you go back and you realize all the accomplishments and all that kind of stuff, it's nuts. Hey, you really don't And with Warner, I remember when I was a kid, you'd watch him and he'd throw this thing and it would jump from one side of the pitch to the other, and it was just fucking awesome. Man.
Phenomenal. And then I think, probably why I resonate with him so much is because he was such a loose cannon as well. He loved to dart, loved to beer, and didn't give a shit who knew that either. Like, he wasn't trying to hide that kind of persona. I think I probably identified with him a little bit because of that looseness as well. But so why St Kilda? I got to ask. Obviously, you're a Perth boy. What's the attachment to the Saints?
Yeah, so my dad was born in Melbourne, so just grew up. I've been a member my whole life, just been inducted into it, and I've inherited the love for the Saints. So really, I've just felt the pain last year. It was just a hard year, and honestly, like the grand finals, still, I'd probably not too many weeks go by where I don't think about the Stephen Milne bounce and the whole. It's been a time.
2010 was a crazy time, but I'll rub the salt in even more. Obviously, we're from Adelaide. I'm a diehard Crow supporter, so we won't talk about 97 either. But you guys, I mean, the thing is that the thing for the Saints at the moment is that, I mean, you've got the list. I think it's just about putting it all together.
Look, maybe when Brett Ratton's game plan isn't just bomb it as high as possible and hope that Max King marks the ball. Maybe when we move past that, we'll be okay. No, we didn't beat the Bulldogs in that final out of luck. We were a good team, and then we just took a huge step back. And I'm a lot more pessimistic than my dad. He's very much, we've got it, like next week we've got it right. I'm like, Dad, like, we got smoked by 90 points. What part of this gives you the confidence?
Well, that Crows game last year where you guys were up by 36 points or whatever at half time and ended up coming back and winning the game with that kick right before the siren. So I'm sorry to drop that bombshell on you. But hey, look, I mean, as a Crows fan, obviously I've heard about the 2018 camp for the last 4 years, and so I haven't, and obviously what happened to us in the 2017 grand final. So I'm not doing much better.
What was it called again? What was the camp called again? Collective Minds.
Collective Minds.
I've heard about that, but I never actually really understood what happened.
So basically, they after we lost that 2017 grand final, they took them on this post-season camp to get rid of all their demons or whatever, ready for the next year. But apparently they did things like sat them on a bus and played the Richmond theme song over and over and over again.
Yeah, they like blindfolded everyone and
really, what the fuck?
And so imagine like you've just lost the grand final and then you're sitting in a bus blindfolded, just hearing "We're from Thailand."
Mental toughness.
Fucking hell, man.
It's so funny. It's so funny you say as well about the Adelaide game, because I was actually in the studio tracking vocals for the album when that happened, and like we were doing some like vocal, like I was taking a break while our producer was editing, and I've got KO on my phone, and I was watching it. I was just like, he's like, Ryan, our producer, was like, what's wrong? Are you okay? I'm like, I can just feel it. We're gonna blow this fucking game. This is so St Kilda. And then sure enough, I forget who kicked the goal, whatever it was, but I remember it being rainy, and I was just like, just put my phone down. I was just like, I'm just ready to track vocals. And I think I had like an awesome evening in the studio just because I was so angry.
Letting the anger out.
Felt like the 26th time that year we'd blown a game. And I love the Saints very much, but as you know, there's an up and down of being a supporter.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I'll tell you, it was Riley Tilthorpe, and he was about a third or fourth gamer, I think, at the time. And he kicked it over his head in the goal square to win the game.
God.
So... fun and games. Hey, we've at the end of every podcast, I know that you were a little bit time poor, so we don't want to hold you up for too long. But at the end of every podcast where we have a guest, we ask him a set of questions.
Questions, mate.
The questions we call them. So if you're happy for us to get stuck into them, we'll fire them through, and then we'll let you go.
Sounds good, boys.
Beautiful. Hit him with question
number one, my friend. What is your favorite song of all time?
I love that reaction. I love that reaction.
Because I know how important that is. If I had to pick one off the top of my head, I'd probably say it has to be Burial Plot by Dayseeker as of right now. But things do move for me, but that song, it's just something about the last few years. I've listened to it constantly. That's my pick as of on the spot. That's what I'm going with.
Their vocals, Dayseeker vocals, is something for me. That note that, there's just one note that he hits.
Yeah,
the clean singer.
Yeah,
and it's just
he's incredible.
Yeah,
Now you fired off the top one, but I like to just normally people give us a top 2 or 3, and I'm just want to know some more about you. So give us your
top
runner
3,
up and third if you had to give a couple more that stick out.
Okay, let me. I'm not even looking at my Spotify. Let me see. I'd have to say, I listen to a lot of The Word Alive. Have a song on their debut album called 2012. That's an absolute banger for me. I've always gone back to it, and probably have to give another shout out to Asking Alexandria. They have some songs on that first album. I probably couldn't pick one, but there's probably 3 or 4 of Stand Up and Scream that have just been so influential for me.
Such a good album, bro.
You mentioned Alexis on Fire early in the podcast as well, and I've been getting back around them again recently, man. I love Drunks, Lovers, Sinners and Saints is one of my favourite songs of all time by them. Accidents, they're Boiled Frogs, man.
Boiled Frogs is a classic.
Boiled Frogs, dude. We Are the Sound is so good, man. It's such a classic band.
They have, again, such a unique sound, but just something they do so well. And I always love thinking about, do you know how long it took me to figure out that silly City and Colour, like Dallas Green's other band, is because he's Dallas Green, so it's City and Colour. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know.
Well, there you go. I've just blown someone else's mind. Fuck
blown the lid off, mate.
I learned that off Last FM in 2000 and something. I was like, oh, that's so clever. That's so smart. Like, I can't believe that.
City and Colour is a kind of a cool name, you know, especially the kind of sound that he was creating with that project. It was just it was perfect for that kind of, that's what everyone was doing.
Absolutely.
Then when you find out that it's because he's Dallas Green, you're like,
damn, it's just so deep.
What a man Dallas Green is.
Do you want to hit him with question number 2?
Question number 2 is, who is your favourite comedian or comedic actor?
I love that question. I'd probably have to go with Jerry Seinfeld, big Seinfeld fan.
Classic. Yeah, I love Seinfeld.
I've been doing
I reckon,
another rewatch at the moment. He's awesome, and I probably have to say, a lot of Aziz Ansari. I know he's got a little bit of a weird rap with some of his stuff, but I watched Master and None again recently. He's very funny, great writer.
Yeah.
Have you watched Parks and Rec?
I love Parks and Rec.
Yeah, his character in that is amazing. But I always, and Ben Schwartz, you know, who does he play? John Ralphio in Parks and Rec. Yeah, that's one of my favorite standalone characters of all time. He's awesome. He is incredible. That guy.
Hit me with your favorite. Hit me with your favorite Seinfeld episode. I know there's so many good ones, but
there's a lot of good ones. But I really love The Marine Biologist. That's such a classic episode. And I love I think it's called The Rye, where with the Jerry's bread? Throwing the rye up. It's such a good rewatch. I love the show.
Did you get into it again because it came onto Netflix?
I think, honestly, it kept recommending it to me for long enough. And I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to do it another rewatch. It just is a matter of time. Yeah. Every time I log into Netflix, it's just like, watch Seinfeld. I'm like, I got to do it.
Yeah, got to get in there again.
Got to start it again. And it's like when you're older as well, you realize how much stuff that you didn't understand properly when you were younger and all that. You're like, oh, wow, that's way funnier than what I possibly imagined.
Yeah.
Even like stuff like Family Guy, like I lost my mind at the stupid jokes when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
And now I go back and I listen to the that went straight over my head when I was 15. Now I'm like, oh my God, that's hilarious. So it's like I'm rewatching it again and laughing at shit that I never laughed at as a kid.
But you still laugh at the chicken fights as well?
Of course,
you know what I mean?
Like that stuff's still good, but now I get an extra layer. Like American Dad, like that's so political. And I had no fucking idea about the political landscape of America when I was 18.
Yeah.
Whereas like now, because I'm a massive fucking conspiracy theorist, I know all the ins and outs of it. So I get all the CIA jokes especially. Wow, those guys are pieces of shit.
Oh, well, speaking of conspiracy theory, question number 3. What's one conspiracy theory that you believe in?
I love the question. That's another good question. I got to admit, I'm just going to put on the table, no judgments aside, all judgments aside, rather.
Yep.
Me and my partner went down a huge rabbit hole probably like 4 or 5 years ago where we watched like way too many hours on jet fuel melting steel beams. And
yes, 9/11.
That was a long time on YouTube, and I don't regret it. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, dude, so good. That's what got me started on why I'm now getting banned off Facebook all the time. I had my Facebook deleted from existence in the start of the pandemic. So from me sharing things about, you know, basically thinking that things weren't all that they seemed in the very early stages, I didn't get a warning. I didn't get a 3-day ban. I just woke up and I did not exist anymore.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that. Yeah.
And then people like went to search for me, and their conversations with me only had their messages, not my messages. Like I literally got removed from existence on Facebook.
And then he tried to play it strong. Like, I ain't going back there.
Yeah,
boy.
I had like a month off. I'm like, I'm not doing that shit. And then a month later, I was like, dude,
all the group chats were going off, and he was like, "Fuck, I need to be a part of this."
Yeah,
again.
that was what it was. It was Messenger. I missed the group chat banter.
Yeah.
The mean banter was what I was really longing for.
Yeah.
But obviously, you know, now I got to get the pod out there. I got to make sure I'm on there hot and heavy.
So, what's one conspiracy theory that you think is complete garbage, complete bullshit?
I'm not going to lie about it, and I don't want to like start any fires, but like I do find it hard with I work for the Department of Health. I'm in the city, so I see a lot of protesters and things, and like I understand it. I respect people's opinions, but when like, you know, our system is fighting so hard, like tooth and nail sometimes, it's just been hard to it's hard to give a lot of my energy to that. People can believe what they want to believe, and I respect it, but it's just, I'm biased because of the field I work in, essentially.
Yeah,
like I have a job to do type thing.
Of course.
But I'm also I would never be someone to like, you know, I have a lot of friends in my life who believe different things, but it doesn't really stop us from like getting along or anything like that. Like everyone's got the right to their opinion, you know? I do have to shout out though, if anyone ever goes down the YouTube rabbit hole like I did, fuck, that term is going to just be burnt into existence. Historians are going to be writing about YouTube rabbit holes in 100 years from now.
Absolutely.
But there's this one where like they go through like Back to the Future 2 and how it predicted 9/11, and it just, I watched it like way too late on one night. I sat there like with my eyes all glassy, just like, oh my God, Back to the Future predicted 9/11, and it was amazing. So I got to shout that video out. Please watch it. It's so good.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
I haven't seen that. That's very interesting.
It's like where the towers are like falling. It's great. It's a very good watch.
Yeah.
The pre-programming stuff that they say with 9/11 is probably one of the most compelling arguments about how
I love
much
it.
like one we've talked about on the podcast before, which if you don't know this one, I'll send you back down a rabbit hole. A movie, A Long Kiss Goodnight, with who's the famous black actor that I can't think of the name of right now, Samuel L. Jackson and someone else. The plot of the movie is literally crash a plane, like Americans crashing a plane into the Twin Towers and blaming the Muslims. Like they even say that is like, are you going to crash a plane into the Twin Towers and blame it on the Muslims? And they're like, yeah, of course we are. Like that's an actual line in the movie, and the movie came out in 1993. That was one of my most mind-blowing thing. So A Long Kiss Goodnight, as soon as you put A Long Kiss Goodnight 9/11 into YouTube, welcome to rabbit hole number one you've been down.
All right, don't tempt me, but I might just have to give it a watch.
I'll hit you back up on Facebook with the videos. I'll be like,
get on to it. All right.
Love it.
Hit him with the next one.
Have you ever meditated before?
I do like to go through some mindfulness stuff. I definitely don't do it nearly as much as I should. But I have given it a go a few times. I think it's something more people should be talking about. With my schedule and like, you know, juggling the band with my job, and I'm getting married next month too. I've had a lot going on.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you. So obviously with all of that, it's very much I do need to find that time to sit down more and just kind of unplug, especially with the, you know, the social medias, and it's just, so you guys have given me the reminder to check back in with that and do it more. What about you guys?
Man.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
Pretty much the same for me. I used to be like hell deep into it. And then I feel like maybe since the pandemic, even maybe just before, I just haven't given it the time of day that it really deserves.
Yeah. We just did our last or second to last episode. We just had a great friend of mine that runs a breathwork clinic here in Adelaide. And she actually took me through a breathwork session so that I could talk about it when we had her on the podcast. So even jump back if you want to and have a listen to the one. You'll see it with Tony Sherry when I link you to all the stuff for the page. And it was incredible, like absolutely incredible.
Awesome.
Like it was, you know, I'd done meditation stuff myself before, but I'd never really had like a breakthrough experience. But going through, I guess, what is a pseudo guided meditation, but a breathwork session with her, I left that feeling, you know, on top of the world, colors were brighter, like, you know, genuinely
That's good.
Different. Love and it. Just absolutely blown away by the power of our breath, you know, that you just kind of I guess, not take for granted, but you kind of, you know what I mean? Like, it's just a natural thing that we do. We just kind of have
Definitely.
this, but really channeling that and going deep into it, which is not something I'd ever really done before, was really special, man. So I'll check that out, and I'm sure that there's people doing it over in WA. I think it's something I can't promote enough now after going through it personally myself.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
All right, we got two more. So we'll hit him with the second to last one. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Probably, I think it's really about, I don't know how I would sort of narrow it down to one sentence, but just around the value of putting the work into something and, being prepared to make sacrifices to do something that is really important to you. I think there's a lot of times during the pandemic, people have felt like lost and a bit directionless, and it's been really hard on people. There's no two ways about that. But I think finding a sense of purpose and something that really drives you to get up every day, finding that passion and working towards it, I think there's real value in that. So I'd probably just have to say, when someone says don't give up on your dreams, it sounds kind of reductionist and basic in that form, but I really think it's true. If you have something that is important to you, something that drives you to get up every day and brings value and purpose to your life, like, you really should find it's worth you pursuing that. It always will be, and, for example, in the band, it's not always easy doing this. It's not, people say to me, why don't you just quit your job and do the band? And I'm like, do you know how I would be broke in like 2 seconds? Like,
exactly.
I'm not doing it for money. I promise you that.
Yeah.
But it is very much something that's important to me. And, if people have other things like in their lives that they find drives them, whether it's, doing podcasting or, a job that gets them up every day, it's important that we lean into that and make that a part of our identity. I think there's something to that.
Yeah, I agree, man. I really like that, because there's a lot of people out there that don't have that, right? That they don't have the dreams.
Too many.
Way too many. Either they don't have the dreams, or they don't have that. They don't have the passion to go, you know what? I'm just gonna fucking get out there and do it. Because a lot of people are too scared, and they want the security like that, and that's why we have so much respect for people like yourselves that are coming on and out there just grinding and making it happen, and not taking no for an answer. When everything's getting thrown in your face, especially of late, that's like, I really like that answer, man. That's cool.
And look, again, it can't be overstated. We appreciate you obviously giving us your time tonight. We're not exactly some absolutely monolithic podcast in the scheme of things, but you've obviously seen some, reason to come on and have a chat with us. And hopefully at this point, with one final question to go, you feel like it hasn't been wasted time, and we'd absolutely love having you on.
I usually say this for the end, but I do make a point of when I do get the chance to chat to, great people like yourselves, I always say it's really important that there are mediums out there, like good Aussie, or like, it just happens you guys are Australian, but good podcasts in general that take that time and do like a real good service by like promoting and giving platforms to people like me. The only reason I'm able to come onto shows like this is because there are shows like this that'll have me, and ultimately it's so key. We've also got, we all know about like the top mediums and stuff, and it's very much we already know what that looks like. It's very much the same kind of churn, but the actual, much like being an independent band, an independent podcast, we all are in this together. So I always give my time. I just wish there was more hours in the bloody day. That's the only thing I wish.
Of course. Totally.
But no, I got a lot of respect for you guys, do 100%.
Thanks, man.
That grassroots movement is the most important, man, because that's where all of a sudden, you can just see the fires starting to burn, and that can really ignite something special, and that's what we're just hoping to be a part of. So, all right. I'll hit you with a final question, the most important one that we ask every guest that comes on. Would you rather fight a horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
Yeah, as a veteran of Reddit, I've come across this question before. So I have to say, I'd rather fight the one large version of whatever the different two on Reddit NBA. It's a common question, replaced with smaller or larger NBA players. I have to say, I'd rather just take on the one, because I feel like I would just get overwhelmed. And if I'm getting my ass kicked, I'm getting it kicked by one, one thing in this case, versus just getting torn from all angles. So that's my answer.
So what is it, like one horse-sized LeBron or 100 duck-sized Kobe's? Is that what we're...
Usually it's like, for example, if there's a really short player, like, would you rather fight one, one horse size Isaiah Thomas or like 100 like smaller versions or whatever.
Yeah.
So
cool.
and those questions always get way too high up the page because people are just like, this is amazing, and it just here for
and
it.
that's why we love it, because we have never had two answers the same.
Nah, they're always different.
Yeah,
always different.
You know, obviously it's a 50-50 split, but we both disagree. So like I'll take the 100, he'll take the 1. But yet when we have different guests on, sometimes they give us a way of thinking about it that we haven't thought of. So it starts to like sway us. I'm like, oh shit, actually that's a good point. So that's why it's the best way to finish off a podcast.
Well, Tom, thank you very much, mate. We really appreciate your time and coming on, chatting to us. And anybody listening, make sure you get out there and have a listen to Patient 67. Brand new single, Fate Bringer, out there now, rolling.
We will obviously, if you're happy to, we'll right after this is about to finish, we're happy to chuck Fatebringer at the end of it and get that in people's ears as long as we don't get copyright striked or something and we get your guys sign off on it, then we're happy to chuck that at the end. It's an absolute weapon. You're an absolute weapon of a man yourself. Thank you for coming on and having a chat with us. We really, really appreciate it.
Just want to say again, guys, thank you, and absolutely love that you guys would want to put our song at the end, and hopefully we get to do it again soon. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you very much.
And we will we'll see you in Adelaide when you're down here next year. I absolutely can't wait to get out to that show, and we'll definitely catch up. And I don't know if you're a beer man or whatever, but we'll have a water, a Coke, a beer, whatever you're into. It'll be great to catch up in person.
Sounds good, boys. Can't wait.
Awesome. Take care, mate.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
You think it's within